All right, so think about the final week of the NBA season. Most of the games, they're basically just tune-ups for the playoffs. But this game, this was not most games. This was a classic rivalry with everything on the line. You've got pride, you've got playoff seeding, and for one player, a chance to face down a ghost from his past. Let's dive into a showdown at the Garden that was so much more than just a basketball game. The most important thing was to walk off the floor on my own 2 feet. Now, when a superstar like Jayson Tatum says something like that before a game with massive playoff implications, you know there's a much deeper story going on here. For him, the biggest opponent that night wasn't even the Knicks. It was a memory.
But look, make no mistake, what was happening on the scoreboard was still incredibly important. We're at the very end of the season, and these two old rivals, Boston and New York, they are locked in an absolute dogfight for the East's number 2 seed. And grabbing that spot, oh, it's huge. It can completely change your path to a championship. We're talking a better first-round matchup and that crucial home court advantage.
And just look at how tight this race was. Boston had a slim 2-game lead. Yeah, but with only a few games left to play, you know the Knicks could smell blood in the water. This wasn't just another game on the schedule. This was New York's chance to potentially steal home court advantage right at the finish line. But that whole playoff race, that was really only half the story. Because for Jayson Tatum, just stepping onto the court at Madison Square Garden meant he had to confront a ghost. So before he could even think about battling the Knicks, he had to overcome this massive mental hurdle just by being in that building.
Let's just let that sink in for a second. The last time he was on this specific court for a playoff game, his season ended. A ruptured Achilles. I mean, that's one of the most devastating injuries in all the sports. The sound, the feeling, that's the ghost he was walking back in to face.
And you know what? He didn't hide it. He was open with reporters, saying he felt nervous, anxious. You almost never hear that kind of vulnerability from a superstar athlete. It's just a powerful reminder of the human pressure that exists behind all those highlight reels. The big question was, could he actually overcome it?
So, with all that psychological drama just hanging in the air, the game finally got underway. And, just like you'd expect with so much on the line, it was an absolute war from the opening tip. It was physical, it was intense, neither team was giving an inch.
And in the end, with that home crowd roaring, the New York Knicks did it. They came out on top. They defended their court and landed a massive, massive blow in the race for that number 2 seed.
Both teams had their stars show up, for sure. Jalen Brunson was just masterful for the Knicks, putting up 25 and 10. And for the Celtics, even with all that mental weight, Jayson Tatum was incredible, nearly dropping a triple-double. But you also had Boston's other guys like Peyton Pritchard stepping up big time to keep them in the fight.
But you know how it is. Big games are always decided in the final minutes. And in the fourth quarter of this one, the game was completely taken over by one man who just refused to let his team lose. And that man was Josh Hart. I mean it. With the game just hanging in the balance, Hart found a totally different gear. He became the focus of every single play, and honestly, the Celtics just had no answer for him.
Okay, get ready for this sequence. In the fourth quarter alone, Josh Hart just went nuclear. He scored 15 relentless points, basically willing his team forward every time he touched the ball. But it wasn't just that he scored.
It's when he scored. He drained 2 massive, back-breaking three-pointers that just completely silenced any hope of a Celtics comeback. You know, the kind of shots that change the energy of an entire playoff series.
And the biggest one of all came with just 42 seconds left on the clock. It was an absolute dagger that sent Madison Square Garden into a frenzy and put the game on ice. Just a masterclass in clutch performance.
So, okay, the crowd's going wild, the Knicks get the win, but what does this one victory actually mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, it means pretty much everything. This one game completely reshaped the entire playoff picture heading into the final 2 games of the season. See, this win wasn't just about one game. It gave the Knicks the season series win over the Celtics 3-1. Now, why does that matter? Because that is the tiebreaker. So now, if both teams finish the season with the exact same record, the Knicks get the higher seed. That is a huge, huge advantage to have in your back pocket. And that 3-1 record, it's locked in now. It's the ultimate safety net. What it means is that even if Boston wins their last 2 games, the Knicks now completely control their own destiny.
And they earned it, right? They did this across the whole season. They took 2 games at home, they managed to split the series in Boston, and then they capped it all off with this decisive win. When it mattered most, they just plain out played their rivals. So here's how it all breaks down for the final stretch. The Knicks have 2 very winnable games left, both at home. The Celtics, on the other hand, have a much tougher road ahead. So the mission for New York is simple. Win out, and that number 2 seed is theirs. It doesn't even matter what Boston does anymore. And so, that's where we're left. Jayson Tatum, he won his personal battle. He walked off that court on his own 2 feet, on his own terms. But his team lost the war. So now, with all the momentum and that critical tiebreaker in their pocket, the final question is this: can the Knicks finish the job and pull off this incredible late-season comeback? Well, the final 2 games will tell the tale.